Today on DD Speed Shop, we're going to turn this junk piece of scrap steel into 66 Biscayne patch panels. Real easy. So obviously we're working on this boat of a hot rod, and you know, I'm sure they probably sell patch panels, but I'm cheap, and that metal was free. I don't even know where I got it from, but it's been kicking around for a while. And relatively simple patches we're going to be putting on this thing. So we're going to start with the Fender. Yeah, so it's actually not that bad. The structure behind it looks like it's being decent shape. So essentially it's got a bit of a wow there. We're going to cut a section out kind of like that, put a new piece in, give it the same curvature. Probably bend over my knee, give it a little weld in there, and then it'll be loaded with filler. No worries there. We're going to totally ignore this crease in the wheel well for right now and deal with that last, because that looks like the most amount of work, and I'm the most amount lazy right now. And we'll focus on this rear quarter section. Now, it's got an inner and an outer we got to deal with, so I'm not sure what the best course of action is just yet. I'm thinking, it's probably hard to show on camera, well, maybe right here, there's a crease. Not a crease, but a fold. So if I cut right around that line-ish, join that down, put a bend in it, that'll be about where we should be, and then I can make the piece on the back after. It's just a flat piece of steel, maybe a couple of bead rolls in it. We'll see how crazy I want to go, and that'll be fixed up just nice like. And then in a future video, we'll deal with all this junk, but that may be a problem when it's a two-door. All right, so we're in cutting position basically. I got my safety gloves, I got my zip disc, hearing protection, goggles, flops. Anyway, so I think what happened to this thing, it's always kind of funny when you're looking at a car and wondering how it ended up being the way it is. So it's got a crease that runs across here, which had just some filler in it, which we'll be replacing that filler. And then if you kind of follow that line across, same thing, it's got a bit of a crease there. So we might try and knock that out, but odds are filler will fix that problem as well. And then same thing, it kind of goes down around through there. So, it is what it is. I think what we're going to first do, I'm just going to kind of cut a hole in it about like that size. We'll try and stick to the edge, and we'll try and keep this piece somewhat together. That way I can throw it on the piece of steel, trace it, cut it out, and we'll be in the ballpark, and then kind of fold it into shape and, you know, trim and cut and whatever we got to do. But it shouldn't be too bad. My only concern is this rear structure piece is probably going to be welded to the back here, so we might be eyeballing this piece a little bit. But hey, that's part of the adventure. We probably could make a template and all that sort of stuff, but what's the fun in that? All right, so we got the piece, look at that, came out in one section, not bad. So it's not bad back here, a little meh. And I mean, if yours was a show car, you'd probably fix that. We're not gonna do it. There's a little bit of a kind of rust hole in there, but you know what we're gonna do? We're gonna get in there with a die grinder after and make a nice round circle. That way all the junk that packs in here can fall out, because that's what happens. The fender is sandwiched right against there, and junk gets packed up in there over its 50 or 60 year life, and slowly but surely gets rusty. So if it has a way to get out, or you can pressure wash it or whatever, that's the plan. So we'll get the piece in. We might even just snip this right off just so it can drain out, so the future owners can enjoy this thing for years to come. So let's get set up and start tracing this piece out on a piece of metal. All right, so we got our piece out. I just cut kind of a scrap piece of the scrap. Now this does have a bit of curvature to it, so bear in mind. But we're just gonna give it a gentle trace with this pristine metal from back when cars were cars and men were men. And we'll see what we got going on. Oh yeah. So I'm gonna go ahead and buzz this out, and then we'll kind of give her a little shapey shape once I'm on my fancy rolling cart. And of course we're gonna use the car as a workbench. Don't worry, when I miss it, it'll go right into the paint. So we essentially have our piece. Now you want to make sure, because we're going to put a bend in this, you have it the proper way so that when you're bending it the way you want. If you have it mirrored or something like that, you'll bend her backwards. Now, this case is pretty simple. We can basically just kind of follow the curvature of the front of the fender, and we're just going to do that like this. This is a pretty technical tool we got here. It's an 80s model, but you know, she gets the job done. So slowly but surely. So the center's not bad, we're just right at the bottom is a little rough. So give her a little more of those. And that fits pretty dang on good. So now what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna tack it in a few spots. It's in a little too deep there because there's no kind of brace to hold it, whereas here it's all full of metal in the back. So I might even start on that side actually, we'll see. We'll see what happens. But I'm gonna pull the welder out. We'll start fitting this thing. I gotta get a grinder, obviously I'll clean this up a little bit. Don't worry, and I don't know, I think I should coat in there. Do you guys lose it if I don't? All right, so you guys can put away the pitchforks and the angry writing letter. Look at that, we're all good. So now, pretty much a custom fit. Gloves on. The only tools we're going to use is the old Miller and probably the handle of this hammer to hold her in. Oh, and a welding mask, because I'd like to see in the future. All right, so we're just going to get her started here, the one corner, and get her started. Nice ugly tack weld, and then, you know what, we'll just work her in a little. Perfect. One more. Right on the thumb for heat. Man, that's not a bad little fit there. So now we're going to work our way down. Now, in a lot of ways, people are going to say you want to go back and forth and all that, and I do agree with that if you're trying to make the panel so it doesn't want to warp. Now, what I'm trying to accomplish is up here to down here. This is the section you're going to kind of see, so I'd like it to fit kind of decent down here. If it's ugly, it is what it is. So we're going to go ahead and listen to my own terrible advice. Okay, we're fitting pretty solid. Need to trim that bottom just a little bit. We'll get going down the side here. Ooh, there ain't much metal here. Perfect. What else we got going on? Bad. There we go. So now we got the rough shape. This fender's a little beat, but just kind of work our way around, do a bunch of little welding. I think I'll probably just work on kind of here up. And once that's done, I'll just do a little zip disc on the bottom. We'll force it in. It might just kind of fit once it gets a little heat in it. We'll get going. And probably burn the hell out of my shins while I'm at it. So there's our patch. Now again, we're not going for perfection. We're going for, well, we're suiting what the car deserves. It's a 4-door, it's in decent shape. We're just trying to keep it on the road. So we welded in the patch, which honestly is probably the nicest part. I did just give this a coating of that rust spray to confirm all, or to encapsulate all that, because we're just gonna body filler over it. In all reality, there's filler all the way up to here. It's the way she's gonna be. It had a few holes where it had been kind of slide hammered out with a, you know, with a screw or something like that, or a hook. So it's rough. We're just gonna filler that in. It'll be just fine. We got the bottom all welded up, all ground down. A little bit of filler, no one will ever know. I did the front too. I ground it down and gave it the spray. So we're gonna let that sit. Obviously, we're not gonna do a whole lot to it right now. We're just in the metal working phase anyways, but in a few days it'll be ready for a little bit of filler. I gotta see if I can get some, I believe this is some sort of bronze color. Go ahead and get that in a single stage just to kind of dust it in. And as well as, I mean, we got lots of screwing around to do. The rockers, what I'll probably end up doing is actually just undercoating the bottom section, paintable undercoating, or rocker guard I should say, and then paint over it. Obviously we're gonna have some work to do on the door, because she's green, and whatever we gotta do in the back. So that's all kind of down the road, but we're getting rid of all the grossness. I think we're gonna work on the back next. I'm just gonna take a quick intermission for some supper, and then be back there. Oh, also I had to put pants on because my beautiful legs were getting burned. Well, it's not exactly the same day. Anyway, so we're gonna work on this quarter. Now it's a bit of a funny situation. So not really a whole lot left to cut off. So if you look at it, I feel show up on camera, but I actually have to tape angled downwards. Now the reason for that is the panel actually curves upwards. So if I were to cut it straight, I'd have to put the brake, because it has a bit of a, maybe a 90-ish curve. The brake would have to be an angle, and I thought this way, if I do the brake straight, then I can cut at an angle. It's all the same. At the end of the day, the panel will look the same. So I have to do that. So I think step one is do that. I'm gonna try and leave as much of the wheel well as possible. Do that on a separate video. We'll get this section in, get it kind of folded over, just so it fits. And then on the back side, see there's the trunk dropout, which is pretty rotted. And it's essentially the same thing. It's a big L piece. So it'll kind of, this will be the L section, it'll be at the trunk floor, it goes straight down. And it probably has a bit of a curve out that'll match the outer piece as well. So typically you'll kind of put the inside one in and clamp it all together and do all that, which we'll probably try and accomplish, but maybe tacked on a few times and a little bit of screwing around. Now in the back here, unfortunately, it's got a goofy piece that'll kind of go out, around, and behind the bumper, which I don't think we're going to fix because that would involve taking the bumper off. So we might just kind of plate it on the backside, and you know, the quarter will stop right there and have a bit of an air gap, which, it is what it is. We're just, again, we're doing this budget, easy, quick, and all that sort of stuff. So I'll get this piece cut out. We'll see if we can get it traced onto a piece of steel, and we'll ultimately see exactly what is behind here. I might be able to do a better job explaining it once this is off. So I'll get that chopped off real quick, and we'll be right back at it. So that's the piece we took out. A little rotten, and actually it's a little different in here than I thought it was going to be. So for one, I thought this would be a flat panel, but it actually has a kick up for the trunk, so that's different. And the other thing is there's no, like usually these panels have some sort of kind of bead rolls or something like that for some strength. Looks like it has none, so no real big deal. So I think what we're going to do is pivot here, and I'll trace out a piece of cardboard in this about shape. It kind of has this little curve. And then we'll go across there. We'll just kind of bend that piece out. Then we can trace this, or cut this out, I should say, and maybe just leave a little bit of a 1/4-inch gap or something like that. Go across, and we can just weld it right to it. It'll be dropped down, be nice and strong. Have its little curve to it, and then we'll just make a piece that'll go here, bend over, clamp those together, and it'll be just fine. The only thing that's gonna be tricky is in there, which we might have to figure. I don't know, once we get working, we'll figure it out. So there's the piece, and as you can see, it just is hanging down kind of a little bit. Some of the gaps could be a little tighter, but you know what? Good enough for who it's for, and I'm not gonna play with it too much. I only had to take one little sliver at the front here where it was just the angle was a little bit too much, but it fit in nice. And now we can take it right out. And on the back side, I traced this line which is pretty straight. We can probably just do it in the brake. Might do it with a crescent wrench. We'll see what happens. I'll put a straight edge on it, just see what it's going to look like. Make sure that'll work. And then, I mean, a lot of it's already been pre-removed, but I'll run a zip cut as tight as I can in there and get all this junk right out. I'll start putting the new panel in. So I think we'll, I'll just see it at the brake here. We'll see if we can get this kind of taken care of. But then, yeah, it actually worked out pretty good. And then once you get the piece in, it kind of hides a lot in there. So we might just end up zipping all this right out and just have a little fold in and have it. It's hard to show, but I'll just kind of weld it in and it'll be good. A little airspace in there. So there is the new panel. Not bad. I did put just a quick fold in it, and you can see up in there. Oh no, it's too dark, but I can probably just build a little piece to fit in there. Be good. That's all it is. A little brake. Problem solved. So we're gonna get set up and probably just give this a bit better of a grind so that's something to kind of weld to. But otherwise, we got lots of strong metal here. The floor is just completely mint. So this is probably the original piece. It would have gone across and then down and over. So we're essentially leaving, obviously, that top section there, and we're just rebuilding the bottom piece we took out. Not bad. Not bad. Look at the welder set up, get a little cleaned up. We'll start burning this thing in. So we got the bottom piece welded in, looking good. It's just stitched in there. Like I said, I'll seam seal on the backside. And before I weld this piece on, which is our new quarter-pound piece, look at it, you wouldn't even think it, eh? I'll put a little paint in there so you guys don't lose your mind. So this is obviously the piece we had cut out. So whatever. I kind of did some rough eyeball measurements. Whatever the piece of junk steel. Look at this, just garbage. But so we got it on there. The only thing I traced over was the end angle that I cut, which is this. So now what it'll do is it'll essentially kind of fit in there. That's obviously too long, so we're gonna have to fold it, but it's a fairly straight piece. Now, the issue we're gonna run into is back here. I'm gonna wanna have it do a little whoop-de-doo, a little curve in and then back out. And I'm just gonna have it curve in and attach to my my piece I just put in. So it won't be factory, but it'll be pretty close. Now, you can do a bunch of things. I mean, they sell little clamps and stuff like that, or do a bunch of patterns. But what I'm gonna do is directly weld this piece to the quarter, just in a couple of tacks to kind of hold it. Then I can mark it inside out where I want, and I'll zip cut it off, and we'll start to kind of just fit it by hand. Really not a whole lot of science to this. Probably the wrong way of doing it, but well, that's why you're watching DD Speed Shop. We don't do nothing right here. So, let's kind of eyeball this in. Now, I'm not worried about the gap and all that. It's just to kind of get her close. What's going on here? I'll hold. Okay. So that is close-ish. Now, what I'm gonna have to do is I'm gonna mark the back side just a little bit because we're gonna have to trim it. And I'm gonna mark top and bottom where I want it to start its curve and then back out, and then we'll probably zip it off about there. So I'll get kind of marked and I'll bring it back and show you what we came up with. Okay, so we went on and off the car once. Couple ugly tacks. We got it's a little gappy, but you know what? We'll just fill that in. Now here's what I did. I gave her a little so it's kind of in there. It is just overlapped a little. I'll probably get in there and grind what I can, but really, the only part you're ever going to see is right in that little section there. A little bit of filler will be just fine. Then what I did is I kind of pushed this back to about where it wants to be. I gave it a mark there, and that's where it started to bend there. So I got a mark there. So we're gonna put it in the brake and go here to here and bend it. And then that piece will overlap with there. We'll drill a few holes in there and we can plug weld it. So, I mean, obviously being a little bit, I gotta go look at the other side. I don't know if it's dead flat or if it does have just a little bit of a curve in it. If it does, we'll have to just kind of bend it over our knee a little, but honestly, it's probably fine. There's so, I mean, I think this is a big dent right there, but it's gonna be what it's gonna be. So we should be pretty dang on good. So I'm gonna paint the inside of that fresh metal real quick, and then we'll work on this and then start welding. Be good? All right, so we got just a little bit of paint ground off. Look at that, it's all painted in there. And this is our nice panel. I put some holes in it so we can plug weld it to our new piece down here. That's just a little bit of dust, so we'll give that a wipe off. Should be able to set the camera up. Just put that in there. Just kind of do one-handed. Well, there you go. Biscayne-ish. Now, on the other side, it's hard to tell, it's so rotten out. This might be a gentler curve, but since they'll both be the same, nobody's gonna know the difference. Okay, so we're gonna try and get this thing into place real quick. I just got this clamp there, so I'm gonna give it a couple of tacks up top, then we'll pull that clamp out. Then we'll use just some vice grips to get the bottom piece all together. Of course, now that's in my way because I've put a brake in it. Awesome. Gentle, gentle. Now this is where actually having it all kind of lined up is important. And when I say having lined up, I mean just having the metal flush. Like we have a big gap there. It wasn't where I first kind of welded it. So now, let's rearrange that a little. Now I may need to use like a screwdriver and a pick and kind of pull that out. If only I had one. Obvious. Oh, this won't work. Whatever tool is the closest to you is the tool you want. Maybe I should line the back up actually. Okay, that's pretty good. So this thing is essentially now in line. Now what we can do is see if we can still wiggle it in and out. So I'm gonna go ahead and pull these together, which I actually really just push it in, and then it'll kind of pop back out. Man, I'm a genius. Look, I'm just figuring this out together. What can I do here? So we'll just push this panel in. What's going on here? Oh, the welder set a little hot. Smell the hickory. Okay, so now we're pretty close. Obviously we still have some flex in that bottom panel, but now we can kind of put this in line with the front about where we want it there. Grab my vice grips. Gentle, gentle. That's the laser junk. Okay, so we'll put it where we want it. I need longer ones. Put that there. And that'll hold that. So really we could put a couple little welds right there actually. We should be pretty much set. Look at that nice panel. So I'm gonna do a bunch of, I'll put a couple of welds on the bottom. Huh, I wonder if it should slope up more. No. I guess that's just the way it is. The way I did it anyways. Huh. It's fine. So I ended up taking this and re-braking it in the brake. So I've got a bit of a goofy line right there. That was the original brake line. you can see it. Oh yeah, it shows up okay. So I redid it. I ended up slicing a bit out. It had a bit of a goofy little thing at the back on the other side, but now the quarter has the patch has a swooping upwards to kind of the bottom of the bumper. So that's what we got going on. I did have to kind of get it all. That was tricky in there, so I did a bunch of welding in there, but it turned out pretty good. It's got a bit of a goofy thing right there. I'm going to have to pull it out after, but it's fine for now. I'm going to finish welding all this in, grind it all down, and call it a video. It's been a lot of screwing around, but $0 invested. Oh, there we go. So it's not my best work, but I think it's good enough for filler and suits this car. I didn't finish doing anything up in here simply because I don't know what I'm going to be doing with the wheel arch. That'll be another video down the road. But we got the quarter taken care of inside and out. We got the fender all dialed together. Now this fender's a little on the beat side, but hey, it is what it is. So that's what we're doing for now. So we have a total of $0 invested, just some zip discs, some grinding discs, and some scrap steel, and a little bit of welding gas. So there you go. Take your time, and if you're not going for perfection, which I assume if you're following a budget build of a 4-door junky Biscayne, you're probably not. You could have put a full quarter panel on this thing. You could have put a fender extension or a full fender on if you want it to be perfect. But that would be, I don't know, many hundreds, if not thousands of dollars, versus this was $0 scrap steel I had lying around. So we're done for this. We're done for this video. The next thing we're going to do, I really wanted to work on that big block Chevy. I'm waiting on parts. I'm waiting on gaskets, a ring gear, and a torque converter. Not going to be here until next week. So the option was do the same thing on the other side for quarter panel. Well, as I was welding this quarter panel in, I thought, this sucks. So I think what we're going to do is we're going to install that 2-door door right there and butcher this whole car up. So hopefully that's what you guys want to see next. 2-door conversion. Hopefully it works out. Tri-5s are easy. These full-size Chevys, how hard can they be? Thanks for watching. Subscribe below, leave a comment, all those things, and well, you didn't shout loud enough that you didn't want a 2-door conversion if I'm doing it, so sorry about that.